listening, they can make their own judgment about this. They don't have to depend on us. When somebody gives you millions and millions of dollars, I think they expect something. I don't think they're doing it for nothing.
Well, John, trial lawyers have given you the
Senator Obama, go ahead.
I disagree with the notion that lobbyists don't have disproportionate influence. Look, the insurance and the drug companies spent $1 billion in lobbying over the last 10 years. Now, Hillary, you were talking earlier about the efforts you made back in '93. Well, you can't tell me that that money did not have a difference. They are not spending that just because they are contributing to the public interest. They have an agenda. And so the one thing, one thing I want to just be clear about is, part of the analysis for all of you is who's got a track record on doing this. Here in Illinois, I passed the first campaign finance reform in 25 years right here in Illinois. We just passed an ethics reform bill that is going to allow you to see who's bundling. And the reason is because myself and Russ Feingold forced that provision in. And by the way, it was resisted not just by Republicans, but by some Democrats. So, we can take concrete steps right now. I agree that our long-term goal has to be public financing. But let's not suggest that until we get there, that there's nothing meaningful that we can do.
I don't take federal lobbyist money. We don't take PAC money.
Not only do I not take federal registered lobbyist money and PAC money in this campaign.
But the fact is I don't take PAC money and I don't take lobbyist
victims
money.
of petty, partisan politics, point scoring, and special interest influence that's out of control. So the real question in this campaign is who can change that? Who can break us out of the
Senator
gridlock?
Obama, I know you and Senator Edwards have taken a firm stand against accepting money from lobbyists, yet you allow them to raise money for you and, as the phrase goes, bundle it. What's the difference between those things?
I do not have federal registered lobbyists bundling for me, just like I don't take PAC money. And the reason that's important is because the people in this stadium need to know who we are going to fight for. And I want to be absolutely clear that the reason I'm in public life, the reason I came to Chicago, the reason I started working with unions, the reason I march on picket lines, the reason that I'm running for president is because of you, not because of folks who are writing big checks. And that's a clear message that has to be sent.
This year, more than $50 million has been raised to stage this convention. Where did it come from? From corporations, unions, and their lobbyists. Since 1996, our chief investigative correspondent, Brian Ross, has been looking into the kind of access big money can buy at these conventions, and he's on the money trail again tonight.
From the fireworks over the city, to the stretch limousines, to the bananas Foster at the Shell Oil Company party last night. It's lobbyists gone wild here in Denver. The Democratic Party seems to be ignoring what their presidential candidate has made a theme of his campaign.
We will not take a dime from Washington lobbyists.
But they are this week. Lobbyists and the corporate executives they work for swarmed into Denver over the weekend in their private jets, unloading golf clubs and some prominent Democrats, including Senator John Kerry. At night, the liquor was flowing, and lobbyists and congressmen were schmoozing at dozens of private parties where outsiders were not welcome, including this one put on by the big railroad, CSX.
No, you're not going to shoot me. You're going to show me your ID.
Ethics watchdog groups say Senator Obama could have stopped much of this.
Indeed, I think he could have sent a signal to say, I want this tamped down, I want this to be lower key.
So in the absence of that, what is the result?
The result is that it's party time.
Indeed, the man the Democrats chose to raise $50 million from corporations to pay for the convention, Steve Farber, heads one of the most prominent lobbying firms in Washington. The companies, all with pending issues in Washington, are allowed to give under a loophole in the law that otherwise prohibits them from contributing to political campaigns.
I think, number one, they want to be part of a democracy.
Last night at the Denver Art Museum, Farber and his lobbying and law firm hosted a huge blowout of a party. No cameras allowed inside. Farber was unfazed about the apparent contradiction with Senator Obama's ban on lobbyists.
I respect the position that's been taken by the Senator, but I don't necessarily agree with it.
There were so many Democratic officials at Farber's party, they had their own fast lane to get inside, including the powerful chairs of many House and Senate committees, Henry Waxman, Patrick Leahy, and Carl Levin, who said he saw nothing wrong in attending because he and the lobbyist have long been close.
Is that a problem for you or not? To go to an old French party now.
A spokesman for Senator Obama says he wanted to make significant changes in how the conventions are paid for, that the primary season ended too late for him to do so. But he hasn't even been able to change things in his own home state, Illinois delegation, where the Chicago Sun-Times reports corporate money will pay for a big reception honoring him later.
You can see they actually found a list of parties that a lobbying firm, Quinn Gillespie, put together, and it got leaked to the media, and it's 16 pages long. The parties are thrown by big lobbyists, by major corporations, usually on behalf of politicians, sometimes on behalf of media organizations. Often the media organizations and the corporations will sponsor the parties themselves. And really, this is one of the last venues for corporations to actually do this type of political activity. It's basically almost like the Olympics. I mean, there are so many corporate sponsors. It costs a lot of money to put these things on, so it makes sense, but it's also just, it's kind of a no-brainer opportunity for basically any business to sponsor and try to get access to these politicians when they're roped in a very small area for a very short amount of time. The chief fundraiser for the Democratic Convention in Denver is a man named Steve Farber. He is a lobbyist, and he's part of a very fast-growing law firm out west and in Washington, and he has a lot of major lobbying clients. Actually, some of his clients are actually sponsors of the convention. One of them, his major clients, AT&T, is actually the official wireless sponsor of the convention. So it's funny, you know, Obama has decried lobbyists, yet his chief fundraiser for the convention is himself a lobbyist, and his lobbying firm is kind of like an unofficial host committee. All the lobbyist money, all the corporate money, I think does pose a conundrum for Barack Obama, because he has set up his campaign as someone who's opposed to special interests. He doesn't take money from lobbyists. He doesn't take money from political action committees. He said that corporate America has too much power.